Welcome everybody. I'm Mamuka Kuparadze, and today in studio hall I will be the anchor of the show. We will speak about the conflicts in Georgia, public alienations, and the ways to overcome the problems. Today we have invited the organizations, NGOs and civic activities working on these issues, and along with them we are going to review the issues in Pankisi Gorge and a very interesting project going on in Pankisi, and we are going to speak about Georgianization, interesting project specifically, and along with that we are going to talk about different things around our conflicts. So let me present Lela Merabishvili, International Organization Movement Against Hunger, officer of the project, Shashiashvili, mentor, Kakheti Regional Development Fund representative, Nino Popiashvili, Caucasus mosaics, philology doctor of science, university professor, Naira Bepieva, Caucasus mosaics, doctor of philologic sciences, professor of university, Nino Kalandarishvili, Nationalism and Conflict Research Institution. And before we go to the review of the project, let us remember the problems in Pankisi Gorge. I mean, public alienation that is still around, and as is known, things are going in a positive way, and I think things have been improving. So just let me briefly just remind that in Pankisi Gorge, this is upstream of Alazani River, where, of course, Georgians used to live. Then in 16th century, new settlers came. Pshavs, ethnic Georgians, Tushis, Ossetians, and a bit later, 18th century, there, after the Russian Empire enters Caucasus, so the conflict was followed with Vainakh tribes resettlement in the region. Then Soviet times follow, and Georgian independence time before Soviet occupation, and after the demise of the USSR, problem again pops up. And because of the two wars between Russia and Chechnya, a local Kists, a local Muslim community, and including local Georgians and refugees from North Caucasus enter. And that's how the problem starts there. Because there were other conflicts in Georgia. We just went through a difficult period, and alienation, that's how alienation started. Now just let me ask our guests, Lela and Ella, what kind of problems were there? And what are the issues now that international organizations work in? And what problem did you want to overcome? Let me welcome everybody for the invitation to the studio ratio. So we support just ethnical minorities development. We contribute to the just resettlement and rehabilitation problems. So the aim of the project in Akhmet municipality, Kist, and youth and improvement and urge of relationships. To create local employment opportunities, and actually the problem which we heard about from local people So communication between people was very poor, and no cooperation, no activities between the two communities. Despite that, these two communities live very close, so they had some common problems. One of them is the employment. Typical, yes, and however, Akhmeti municipality in Pankisi Gorge, this measure was very high, and therefore just we used this employment shuttle methodology. And according to this methodology, just not only Akhmeti young people, but Pankisi young people also just got involved in the problem. Actually, our shooting team was there, and let's see the report about your projects, and then we can talk about it in more detail later. So for a few years, Nino Gelashvili in Akhmeti municipality village has been running a family business. According to David, the demand is increasing for ready-made food and the ecologically, environmentally friendly production. So he decided to set up a bar. So here is the bar which I'm going to set up. I'm going to put here 2 tables and here 2 tables just for the start. And here I'm going to just set up a packaging room. And here just for children, where children just can play together with parents. And today his business idea he shares with movement against hunger and Kakheti municipality fund, and is going to try to get fundraising for his project too. In Pankisi, in village Duisi, along with the idea of Dato, the organizers have to see more than 10 preparatory projects. So this is the support of employment, and the organization has been implementing the project since September 2016, and the trainings were actually conducted for local Georgian and Pankisi young people, and they were just trained how to raise funds for their project implementation. So it's about cheese, small business, and I just made an emphasis on this equipment and cutting and packaging and vacuum equipment, and I hope that will be successful. Bikes, rental, beauty salon, coffee machine, tailor shop, and different ideas, and the young people see they need to implement these ideas and put it to practice. The goal of the project to urge Akhmeti municipality young Georgian and Kisti young people and to support them in searching for employment and create joint initiatives. However, along with business and career, one of the main goals of the project is approximation of Georgian and Kisti young peoples. The project allowed us to get more integrated. Georgians and Kis, I think you have seen that they have some common projects, and it's of course extremely important just for peace and for being together, and for the region for being more integrated and more united. Once they were separated, they didn't even make friends, but project puts them together. It's extremely significant event. So this is the trees planted by young Georgians and kids, so they grew, and I feel very good looking at them. So I just am very emotional about that. The trees are going to grow, and new generation just will know that that was our generation who planted those trees. So what would you add? So did we miss anything in the report? So it was actually a very comprehensive report. Just the only thing I can add is that within the framework of the project, 5 days training, 20 young people just went through training in Akhmetam and 20 in Duisi, and note that a few times a month, 40 young people in total got together to get acquainted with each other. The topic of the training was time managing, CV writing and preparation, communication skills, presentation skills, and all those skills that are very important for young people to be successful. And during 5 months, the mentor, with the assistance of Ella, they just learned the things. And also we had guest experts and guests from different companies that shared their experience and helped them to be competitive, to become competitive in the local employment market. Naturally, of course, the jobs are scarce in the region, and therefore we decided for the employment job to add some project components, and the report was just about the entrepreneurship component, business projects, and those businesses were selected, that were going to be implemented. And after the participants learn the skills, they would be able to implement new projects. And they also implementing a community project in Akhmeta Duisi, and they worked together very hard, and Akhmeta Duisi participants were there too, and they would advise how to improve projects, and they just assisted each other. That was really great. Ella, so what would you say, how important it is to support and contribute to business development for the region? And what development components were pointed out? That's extremely important because employment issue is all around Georgia, but it's especially urgent and delicate in Caucasus region. And in order to allow project participants to implement their projects and for the local community and for participants for them, this component was of extreme importance. And let me point out that after entrepreneurship trainings, the participants also just took part in different grant contests from different donors, for example, Produce in Georgia, and they presented their ideas, and the preliminary results were published, and majority of them actually successfully went through the first phase. So they are actively using their skills. Thank you very much. Today we have just 2 participants of the project. One is from Pankisi Gorge, Madonna Margashvili, and from Akhmeta Tamas Noniashvili. Please comment what you learned through the project. Let me welcome everybody. Personally, I learned skills and knowledge which definitely will help me in terms of employment, and every day was quite new and interesting, and we were just allowed to show our opportunities, and definitely such projects are important actually for Georgians and kids to get closer to each other, because definitely just we suffer certain prejudices. Yes, we have prejudices and some stereotypes that religion or parents in the region just contrast the involvement of young people into different activities. So is that truly so? And have you ever had any issues with your community? Of course they don't contrast. Of course they don't mind. Personally, I have never felt anything like that. If there are opportunities, all of us young people just get willingly involved with the projects. And we young people, about 20 people, managed to participate in the project, and I really wanted all other young people to participate in the project. That's very nice to hear. So this project, did it really put you closer to each other, or just you had known well each other, and maybe just it did not help you in any way? Thank you very much. Let me welcome everybody. As for the project, well, just before that, I had not had any communication with young people, and I do think that this is a great project. This is, a very beneficial project, because there are some alienation components between us that don't actually contribute to the region and our relationships. And within the framework of the project, definitely we got to know a lot better to each other, and some stereotypes were destroyed, and we discovered that everybody is very friendly, actually. So personally, I met just friends, and I do hope that projects like that will just continue. And I mean, we Georgians and the kids, we all just are born in Georgia. Actually, Georgia is what really unites them, and we always have had a good relationship, and therefore I think that projects like that are absolutely needed. I mean, to be friendly and have truly neighborly relationships. So let me point out that the first session, Georgians just set to separate, and we set to separate, and I just could not imagine that we would ever become as good friends as we are today. Just a few days were enough to get to know each other and to become good friends. It's amazing. And we, for example, made presentations together. That's great to hear. And the situation is getting improved, and more bridges actually are being built between two alienated communities. And let me talk about my experience. A few years ago, I was in Pankisi Gorge. WPR organized a journalistic tour, and also I just got poisoned, positively speaking, with Pankisi Gorge, and I prepared a few projects, and I participated in the project, and I made good friends. I mean, people of my age, and I'm very happy that I listen to you today, and I hear positive news like that. So before we go to the next topic, I'd like to offer you our just traditional or just rubric. It's a news digest, and I'd like to ask Nino to get us acquainted with the digest. Please, Nino. Let me welcome everybody. Studio Ray again just offers digest of South Ossetia and Abkhazia. That way, we are trying to fill the information vacuum in Georgia, and let's start with Abkhazia. Digest traditionally, we offer with the direct translation. May 18, Sochi agreement was made between Abkhazia and Russia about the cooperation and creation of common information center between Russia and Abkhazia, Interior Ministry, and Aslan Kobakhyan, Minister, and Russia's Deputy Minister Igor Zubov signed the agreement. The main goal of the center is to operate just exchange important data between Russia and Abkhazian law enforcement bodies. The center will coordinate actions against criminal and organized crime attempts. June 16, after the heavy rains, once again a few areas of the city were flooded, and the rivers left their beds, and staff of the emergency agency and local people, we managed to eliminate the results of the flood. Unfortunately, it's become tradition, and according to communication specialists, it happens because of pollution of anti-flood pipes, and specialists are going to start to clean the pipes for anti-flood systems. May 25, in 156 schools, last bell sounded, and this day traditionally everywhere proms were held, and about 2,000 graduates this year finished schools. 4 to 11 July, championship was held in Cyprus, and 8 teams participated, and the Abkhazia team as well as a winner of 2016, and as a winner became Padonia team, but Abkhazia team took first place. Independent Football Federation was created in 2013 and unites countries and autonomous republics that officially were out of FIFA Championship, just about 25 of them. You have just seen a Abkhazia News Digest, especially for Studio RAM, prepared by local journalists. We appreciate the cooperation, and we offer the video unchanged. Despite that, in about range of issues, we have different views. Now let's talk about Skin Valley News Digest. After Children Hospital inauguration, first the Children Emergency and Reanimation Department was inaugurated, and anesthesiologists and reanimatologists are invited from Russia, and the trainings are just on to train local experts, and now there is no need to transport children out of the Republic. The department is equipped with everything which is needed for efficient treatment. Today, it's the 7th session of the 6th Parliament of Ossetia. After the vote, Mr. Gassiev became the chairman of Parliament. Petro Gassiev and Boris Tasov candidates were presented. 32 deputies participated in voting, and out of them, 21 voted for Petro Gassiev. President Anatoly Bibilov met Chairman of Parliament Petro Gassiev, and Bibilov congratulated on the new position and pointed out that this is a very responsible job and requires mobilization of forces. So I'd like you very much to speak with population, and I think the projects will continue, for our deputies and population, and the Parliament will work more efficiently. Popularity of graffiti culture is increasing in South Ossetia. First time this graffiti became last year, but this year painters came from Russia, and they just paint high riders, and Nikolai Zagov picture appeared as well. So the painters agreed upon the paintings with the municipality, and now they are painting on the walls of the second school. We are well acquainted with what you have gone through, and we are very sympathetic with you, and this is the main reason we are here. This is based on our own initiative. That was digest from Abkhazia Ossetia. I will get you acquainted with the monitoring results of the Abkhazia and South Ossetia and Georgia media digest. And now, please, Nino Kalandarishvili, who has been involved for many years. Nino managed the Mason University project from the USA that covered a few interesting ways. Nino, please just briefly. After 2008, so what projects we have and what phase we reached. Thank you, Mamuka, very much. Since 2008 up to 2012, I was not involved in the project. I became involved in 2012, but what was happening 2008-2012, I'm very well informed about. So freshly, just after August War, that was amazing that Georgians and Ossetians managed, with the help of American University, to sit around one table and talk about the problems between Georgians and Alsatians, and they were very hot at that time. And actually, despite the fact that emotions were overcoming and overwhelming both sides, we managed to find not just common language, that we even just agreed that despite the radically different views about the reasons and outcomes of the war, about the role and the crimes of each side toward this conflict, and people still managed to grasp that that time it was necessary to establish certain relationships in order to find common interests and to avoid common threats, common potential threats. So that was not easy, because for work like that, most important is what really matters is trust building. And starting with late 90s, the trust was just being built up just step by step, but after 2008 it was almost destroyed by Georgianization, specific wise that differ with Abkhazian Georgian relationships. I cannot say the resolution, but still making certain steps towards the resolution just became possible. And one of them, more or less successful actually, measure was the Zonkari Reservoir Rehabilitation Program. Please, just briefly. So Zonkari Reservoir is located in South Ossetia, and the engineering condition, as according to Alsatians, was not up to the par. And reanimation or rehabilitation needed specialists. But you know that reservoir is an alive body, and it's not very easy to interfere with that. And it was necessary to get hydro engineers involved. Those people who participated in the creation of this reservoir. And it happened to be that that hydro engineer lives in Tbilisi, and the international high-level engineer who created this, one of the creators of this reservoir, and the Alsatians were conscious what results could be. The potential threat would be catastrophic, and it was possible that it would flood not only Alsatian territory but even just part of Kure region. And just to avoid the disaster, with OSC experts, some plan was made out, and that danger was sidestepped. For the time, it was a very important step forward. However, getting together at the disastrous times and reaching agreement, but it doesn't mean that. That it's easy to speak without, just speak about those disastrous results. Actually, negotiations were the harder Russia-dominated South Ossetia, and the more dominance Russian, financial and other factors actually influenced, leveraged South Ossetia. And there were cases when at the last minute some participants from Ossetian side would refuse to participate. And others came, and it amounted to just I think civic heroism, because these people, when they returned to South Ossetia, they were labeled with traitors and enemies of South Ossetia and defectors and things like that. So that was a unique case in the civic format, where still civic activities and conflictologists, conflict specialists, and different people of different professions still managed to get together. So actually these relationships were kept, with certain people in the expert society, and that allowed us to be informed about what was happening in South Asia. And another thing is you have just seen the report from Tskhin Valley, and let me tell you that in Georgian media, if there is interest to the conflict, it's toward Abkhazia and much less toward South Asia, and mostly, the focus is on negative fact as like stealing people and things like that. But what is happening in South Asia and Tskhin Valley, I think our media and our actual society have lack of information. And thank you, Studio Red, that you just try to keep us updated. So Naira, you just work on Georgia-South Asia relationship. You are one of the most popular persons in both in South Asia and in Georgia, both sides, and you enjoy very high authority, and you have actually implemented very interesting projects. And today, we have invited you just to speak. Of course, you can speak about a range of topics, but let's talk about the things which Coburn supported you about. And let me remind our viewers that this show is jointly supported by EU and United Nations. Coburn, that serves the trust building and early response mechanism. And a lot of groups actually just implement this program here. So please, Naira, let's comment this report. It's about 2 projects of yours, and then I think we can comment. The project envisages scientific dialogue between Georgians and Georgia and South Asia scientists, and Nard's epic history was planned to publish. And what really matters and is very significant is Georgian, Ossetian, Russian, Georgian English phrase book and dictionary edition, and together with a short dictionary and a phrase book, audio CD disc is as well just envisaged. And those who want to master these languages, they can enjoy actually the audio materials as well. Well, generally speaking, Georgian and Ossetian relationships, I think everybody knows that that was developing during centuries, and there were a lot of obstacles, and due to this unfortunate reality, we became distant from each other, isolated, and creation of such textbook became necessary. First of all, this popularization and improvement and promotion of 2 languages and for 2 nations, this vacuum somehow should be filled with textbooks like that. And our priority is to trust, to build trust between 2 people, we just chose the education because people in this area are very close to each other. Good morning. Good night. It seems to me that between Georgians and Ossetians, relationships are not quite bad. I have many Georgian friends, but simple point is that this project definitely will make these relationships a lot better. To what extent your Ossetian colleagues are involved, from that side? And has the work on the dictionary finished? Let me start with the end. I think Mamuka, you know just as well that work on the dictionary never stops because it's a live body, and every day just new words come and go. So definitely, dictionary should follow these processes. And before I talk about the dictionaries, let me just express my condolences. Those just underlying dictionary. This dictionary actually joined a project of two nations, Georgians and Alsatians, and I think one of the Nafi Jesuiti, one of the just shining lights who just passed away a few days ago. And it's a great loss not only for Alsatians, but for every conscious community. So he was not just locally important scientist, he was a scientist of large scale and large caliber. And let me extend my just condolences to everybody who knew and who worked with Nafi Jesuiti, a great scientist. We are going to miss him. And in every project we ever just initiated, Nafi Jesuiti supported us willingly and always sympathized with us. His introduction, he said that this dictionary make it clear that Georgians and Alsatians had a lot of things in common, and now we have a lot of common things. And as long as our ancestors lived so friendly, I think we should follow their example, because a feud and hostilities never bring anything any good to anyone else. And Nafi more than once proved his fidelity, his commitment. If you remember, just famous case of Astafyev in Soviet times, Georgian delegation as a protest left the session, and Jansel Charkviani remembers that as soon as we left the hall, Nafi followed us, and Nafi told us, my friends, my brothers, Georgians, I am with you. So, and this Russian, Georgian, English Alsatian dictionary is a work which Nafi always just pushed and always urged. He always stimulated us. Unfortunately, he did not live long enough to see that, but we, his senior colleagues, we continue these activities, and of course, today, yes, from Vladikavkaz, from Tskhinvali, and from Tbilisi, many scientists work on that. We have the lexicology center. We have a lot of Alsatian lexicologists and Georgians, and I think that very soon we will present this book with CD, because the phrase book which we are going to finish and I think have it published, a subject of great interest, as long as 4 languages are presented here, and those difficulties, of course, are time-consuming. And shortly speaking, Georgian verb has unique forms. We have a lot of different just behavioral verbs. And in Alsatian, for example, Alsatian has only past tense. But there are so many just idiomatic and behavioral, just conjugative things that, I think these 2 languages would enrich each other. Contact, when we have just simple and difficult forms, and one subject to objects, it's a bit harder for Indo-European languages. So it's those linguistic things. And also gender issue. I mean, who came? A man came or a lady came? But in Georgia, just it is expressed with one sentence. This is in linguistic barriers, and these things are actually just. Of course, we don't have well-established contacts, but what support us? Our common interest is to work together, to create together. What tomorrow, the day after tomorrow? This is going to be a textbook which is oriented on long-time results, because book remains. This is a product that remains for future generations. Thank you very much. And let's see the second report about Nart's epos created for children, and then let me ask Nino about something. Nart's legends and fairy tales we read, we learned, and now let's sum up and let's remember the characters, the protagonists. So when I got hold of the book, Legends of Narts for Children, I immediately realized that that would be a great thing, great material for me to work with children. And the work on this book for children was very funny, and it was very just educational about nerds, about pagans. Historically, they just painted illustrations willingly. You see the exhibition we have here, and also just I tried to some sort of put in compliance with Georgian and Greek myth and legends. So I find the book very funny, and working on that is great. And we small kids, we like painting, and we created illustrations. For me, it was great. Personally, I like adventure and histories and different stories. And in this book, there are a lot of adventures. And the book was interesting. There were a lot of adventure stories. So I also found the book quite funny, and it was not difficult. So I painted Nart's characters and wine pots, and I learned that it's bad to tell a lie. I thought that before I read the story, I thought that you have to obey only just grown-ups, but after rereading the story, I realized that small creatures can also help. So we are back at the studio. We have just seen the report about the edition of Nart's legend book. So Nino, you just pointed out the motivation. Why you wanted to do that. So please tell us just how colleagues were just actually just enthusiastic, and how just can this textbook be developed. So first thing, Mamuka, translation and investigation of Narts in Georgia has a long time history. First, Nart legends just appeared a long time ago, and in a full translation actually belongs to Civic Dialogue, Georgi Leonidze, 40s of last year. and they translated Narts, and it should be noted that Georgi Leonidze had a great poetic talent, and he very often, as a poet, he becomes an independent author, and there is even certain deviation from the original work, but that translation just served its historical mission. And Meritz Hovrebo also made fantastic translation. These texts became classical, and a few years ago we published Best Legends of Narts, and Naira Bepieva organized and translated out of the 7 volumes in Ossetian language, and it's his first translation into a different language, and this is best text. Selected text with prosaic and poetic collections, and Georgian and Ossetian scientists and folklore specialists worked on that. It was very interesting job in Georgian and Ossetian. But despite the fact that book existed, we made a wish. These texts, legends, and stories to bring it closer to young people. This edition, just is known for high academic style, and who were authors, whose stories were where stories and when stories were published first, and there are a lot of other comments, and this edition would not be too attractive for young people. And we know that young children actually just have a lot of interesting opportunities to see a lot of illustrations. These colorful and smooth pages with large types and pictures telling a lot, and the text is adapted because scientific edition, the way it was recorded, written, and its philological translation, is different with what we tell our children, what our children listen to. This is first adapted edition. It should be. Then it is known for its painting as well, and we are very happy that together with philologists and folklore experts, Georgianization painters worked, and we enjoyed the great support of Georgianization painters, and many painters were experienced. And just to the credit of Ossetians, we should say that it was very natural for Ossetians, but for Georgians it was absolutely new, absolutely unknown, and we just got involved both. Young painters and experienced painters and designers and painters using different techniques, and one of the characters was the same characters. Actually, one of the same characters are viewed differently by different painters. That makes our world more versatile, more various, more colorful, and we tried to include all details and to try to keep things original, all characters, all pages, all just ornaments, specially designed for the book. A lot of work actually just has been contributed to the project on behalf of scientists, painters, designers, and experts, and a lot of things we would just agree upon. We would try, of course, to come to common understanding. Definitely we had some differences. For example, a few passages were painted by several painters, and while selecting we tried to allow an opportunity to each of them, but still you had to choose. Yes, still we had to choose the best amongst the best. I think it's great that there was contest and competition, and I do welcome that Ossetians were just involved academically. And one of the was one of the same characters. Just in legends, actually, the characters just appear again and again. So philologically speaking, we had to divide long legends. For example, one character is very young and small in one story, and then go to another story. But in legend, one story may just cover 100 pages, and when we see one as a character in all just in other stories, well, painters of course use different approaches and paint these characters in different ways. And as you pointed out, this book found it's just young readers, and Tbilisi Classical Gymnasium third form chose narrative legends for children as supplementary reading. And let me thank the teacher, Mrs. Tamara Bzikadze. She made a fantastic job. Actually, they went through the book, and at every lesson they had just fresh homework. It's the expense of just reading skill lessons, and that was great in terms of supplementary reading. Actually, just that happened on the basis of narrative legends. Children would paint, and they would make up stories. Just as they found a lot in common with Scandinavian and Greek and Georgian mythology. And a very interesting thing was, Achilles' training and how children just compared. And I think you remember that Achilles had a vulnerable heel, and Alsatian hero also just had some vulnerable heel. And children actually, seeing them discussing those things, that was really valuable. So we expect new topics to appear. About Nart children legends. We were approached from Kakheti. There is a public school, some teachers who work on Alsatian version. So, and yes, we just published both in Georgian and Alsatian language as well. So yes, we were just looking for these people, and I just my question was, how is that possible that it won't be adapted? But yes, but we are very happy now that these adapted nerds actually is used, and also as a textbook to support Alsatian language as well. So now let me ask the audience. So I can't but thank European Union and UN program COBERN that allowed us this opportunity. These dictionaries and this treasure. That was dreamlike for us. And in reality, no one supported that. But let me sincerely thank COBERN project. This is a team that feels the necessity and knows the price for education. And naturally, we are trying to justify their trust. I think Georgi Benashvili wants to ask a question. So I welcome this great projects, actually, especially in regions that are related with consolidation and strengthening of civil community and society. And I think these things should create a platform on which to build just a strong Georgia in the future. For me, that was like a surprise. I did not know that these young people just were in Pankesi, and we are also implementing project with the European Union in Brussels and Hague, and we made a few trips, and we will show some interest. We will trip to Pankesi Gorge, and that would be interesting if they are just allowed to get acquainted with the Hague International courts and Brussels just agencies and offices, and that would be interesting for consolidation of our young people. Yes, it's a new idea, and so now let's ask Nino Gelashvili, our journalist, to get us familiar with media monitoring, just from our colleagues as well. So last month, just we watched the 6 popular Georgia media, and in this period, we did not spot any hate speech cases. As far as the subjects, still dominating our international organizations' declarations about the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Georgia. And the UN General Assembly at the 71st session, one more time, passed the resolution about the rights of IDPs to return their homes. The document urges the United Nations Secretary yearly prepare a report about IDPs' conditions in Georgia and about implementation of the resolution. According to Georgia's government, resolution points out that people have a right to return their homes. And NATO Parliamentary Assembly delegation visited the village of this individual line. Georgia side shows the problems of local people and neighbor villages. The Assembly pointed out that they support sovereignty and territorial integrity of Georgia. And it should be pointed out that compared to Southeast Asia, Georgian media speaks more about Abkhazia on news. And it is known that last May, just accused Kazanjali, accused of murder of Gigot Khazoria, is no longer in preliminary imprisonment in Gali. Just meeting Abkhazia government representative notified Georgia's security service that the accused is no longer just accused, and this thing will be just put on the agenda. This fact was reacted from European office. This fact prevents justice from execution. And about Abkhazian military, Abkhazian-Russian joint military drills and goal is to react to potential threat from south and west. It points out that this became possible based on the agreement between Russian and Abkhazia's agreement on military joint units. And the Georgian media negatively says that. Georgian media speaks about Abkhazian political crisis on Sahara, met and made a 10 days ultimatum to the government. According to them, Hajimba cannot control the country, and the crime situation becomes harder and harder day after day. Abkhazia swamp in touristic season, criminal peaks in Abkhazia. This is website Baby Dachi, and it points out increasing rapes and murder rates. Locals don't trust investigation and accuse the government of coverage of the criminals. But this is not the reason for tension, especially according to the locals. Rape is not quite uncommon in Abkhazia. As for the South Ossetian, in June 20, just morning meeting was held in Abkhazia, dedicated in South Ossetia, dedicated to 1920 events, and Georgians were referred to as Nazis, and the edition referred to Georgians as beasts. The edition also just commented Georgian events. The speech is negative, but we didn't find any hate speech cases. For example, Bloody 1992 and chronological material that goes back to the most bloody phase of the conflict. Media speaks in case of opening of transits. The author asks rhetorical question, is trading peace for economy worth? Georgia failed to join NATO, but NATO entered Georgia. This is how Ossetians reacted to NATO military drills in Georgia. Abkhazia, Abkhazia Foreign Ministry reacts to Georgia's international supportive documents. Abkhazia Foreign Minister pays attention to the declaration of Lithuania Foreign Affairs. It says that Lithuania is direct accomplice to a bloody action 2008 initiated by Saakashvili criminal regime. The ministry just reacts to NATO announcement, and according to them, NATO urges revanchistic Georgian spirit. That's all. Of course, we are going to monitor. We keep on monitoring, and we will get you acquainted with results at the next show. Thank you, Nino. Today, at the end of our show, the traditional quiz, traditional question. So, how much do we know? So, Nino, please. Yes, the next question is, so where does the word Pankisi come from? We don't know. Or we know? Well, Pankiseli was very famous historical person. Well, they were of course enemies. Maybe we shouldn't use this word, but he just handled enemies, and he became famous for his heroism. And there are a lot of poetry and legends about him, and in respect for him, Pankisi, Pekka Pankiseli actually is behind that. Yes, that's right. Very interesting. It was, meeting you, and thank you very much for coming here to the studio. And I hope that our viewers got a lot of interesting things. And I ask our viewers to feedback and express their opinions. After 1 month, we will meet again, and we will have new guests, and we will get you acquainted with new projects. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.